Okay,
Let's
all
do
right.
it.
It's wonderful to meet you. Thank you for taking a minute out today. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me on.
You bet. So before we get into your good work, I want to begin with 5 years ago, we were figuring this pandemic out. It was
Yeah.
fresh, it was unknown, but it turned everything upside down. How did you make it through that time period, and how has it influenced the way that you do things here in 2025?
That is a great question. Well, first of all, I'll tell you, March 19th, 2020, when the lockdown happened for us, like the real lockdown
Yeah.
in Carmel, California, where I am, was my 50th birthday. And we had had plans to do a big dinner, with friends and family. And all of a sudden, my husband and our two kids, who were, gosh, junior in high school and an eighth grader, we went for a walk down by the beach. And I remember we were walking together and we're looking at each other like, are we supposed to be out here? Are we supposed to be outside?
Uh-huh.
What are we doing? It was such a bizarre feeling, a bizarre time. And we came back to the house and I made some hamburgers, and my husband came into the kitchen and he said, I feel like we've been here before. And that was because I had been diagnosed with cancer in 2010. And he said, it's this unknown space.
Yeah.
It's like we don't know what this next year is going to look like. We don't know how it's going to turn out. But we do have the wisdom to know that we're going to make it through because there's a beginning and a middle and an end to everything. So I think right away, our perspective was maybe a little different because we had really gone through a tough, tough time in around 2010, 2011, 2012. We had just a run of really hard years. So there was some wisdom there that this too shall pass. Um, but we hunkered down like everybody.
Yeah.
And we, had our bought our toilet paper and our paper towels, and we went through that together, and then into our son's senior year and our daughter's freshman year of high school, where they really spent that whole year on lockdown in our house.
Yeah.
We made the most of it. We did cherish that time with our kids, thinking, gosh, what a rare opportunity for us to have this like really close time with teenagers. So we made the best of it that way. But it did for me reinvigorate that once we were coming out of it, that it was a good reminder about gratitude. It was a good reminder to stay in the moment
Yeah.
and to look back on that time as a reset. And that's what I was able to do at that time. And I think because I had a lot of practice with it during the cancer journey, but it was hard. I mean, it was hard to watch our kids' lives stop. I mean, they're multi-sport athletes, and everything just came to a crashing halt. And I did see them struggle a little bit with feeling down at times, feeling restless. And as I felt the same way. I mean,
Yeah.
you just want to get out there and you want to get back to normal. And I think you realize that that new norm beyond is really going to require some trust and some faith and some choice in how we move forward.
Yeah.
Because I think people could wallow and get stuck um, in the downside of being locked up. I mean, that was really tough.
It
And it was
certainly
tough for a
was.
lot of people. I think we had obviously the blessing of being near a beach.
Yeah.
We did a lot of beach drives, just taking in kind of the beauty of our surroundings.
Yeah.
And I thought of so many people. I thought, how are people doing this in an apartment in New York?
Yeah. I know.
And having so much compassion for people who really couldn't step outside,
Yeah.
their homes. So I think we got through it pretty well considering,
Yeah.
but it has definitely been that, as I said, a reset for or a reminder of staying really grateful freedom, for your everyday activities,
Yeah.
and maybe not say, I have to do this, but to remind yourself, I get to do this.
Yeah.
I get to go to work. I get to go. And it kind of, I think if you can look at it like that, it can be, there can be some positives there.
Absolutely. I ramped up a lot of interviews that I was doing for my jazz radio show, and I remember
Mhm.
a guitarist named Al Di Meola, who was at that point, it must have been April or May, was pretty crushed. I mean, he was a global guy that had everything that he was going to do just evaporated in seconds.
Mhm.
And he made the metaphor, drew the parallelism between what we were living through and cancer. He said, we got diagnosed. We've gone through mourning. Now we're going to figure out how we're going to get through it. And then we have to go through it. And at that point, it was all kind of, as you can imagine, it was like this sequence of being told you can't go anywhere and then having all
Mhm.
of this government messaging that was confusing. And then
Yeah,
vaccinations, when's warp speed going to happen? Then when are
yeah,
we going to get back out? So there was this whole diagnosis to remission
yeah,
possibility. And we did went through that. We went through, hey, it's okay, let's get out. And then another variant came in. So there, it was interesting when he said that. I remember that was revelatory to me,
yeah.
bringing that up. So
And it's so interesting that my husband said that too. The
yeah,
night that he goes, I feel like we've been here
yeah,
before. That feeling of we don't know, that unknown space is so uncomfortable
wild.
for humans, right?
No, it is.
And it's kind of getting comfortable with the uncomfortable. And I
Yeah,
think that's the lesson for me is if you sit in it and you kind of go, okay, there's a period of time I have to sit in this.
yeah,
And it moves through faster than when we're in resistance.
yeah.
That's for me, that's very true in my life.
So you've had a very interesting career trajectory, being in front of the camera as a reporter and an anchor, being a
Mhm.
writer, a survivor, all of these things. So if we hone in right now on 2025 and put you in front of a bunch of grade school kids, sixth
Mhm.
graders, career day, the kid in the back of the room is like, "Hey, what do you do for a living?" What's your answer?
I'm a writer and a speaker.
Okay.
That's where I am now.
Okay.
That's what I'm doing now. And I really do not want the experiences of my life to be in vain. And I want to share from a place that's very deep in service to others. So I am getting this message out about overcoming and that all is possible because I see it. I see it as I work with cancer patients as a patient navigator at our local hospital, volunteer. I work in the world of healing touch, which is a therapy for people going through treatment to help alleviate their symptoms. I'm around it a lot, and what I see is people I know that are even diagnosed with stage 4 cancer are living longer lives, and some of them I meet who are 30 years out, 40 years out, and they serve as such an inspiration for that notion that everything's possible. We just don't know. And we have to, I think mindset is so important. Even with a disease like cancer. I mean, especially with a disease like cancer. I mean,
Yeah.
it's one foot in front of the other and really try to put yourself in a place where you're hoping for the best. It's so hard. I mean, it can wear you down
Yeah.
for sure, and that's normal and human. But there is inspiration there, and I think it comes with when I say writer and speaker. I just recently finished a memoir. I'm just putting the finishing touches, so I'm not published yet, not querying agents just yet, but I'm right there and it's a story of resilience and it's a story of hope. And I think it's important to remind people that hope is always there.
Yeah.
We have to reach in and grab it.
Yeah.
And it's so hard when you're feeling weighted down to see that sometimes. But I used to tell my kids that fear was thinking something's coming down the pike that we can't handle. But truth is, we're here today. So we've obviously handled everything that's come.
Yeah.
And so we have this 100% track record for overcoming. And I remember my kids going, wow, it kind of struck them when they were only 7 and 4 when I was diagnosed. So and now they're, my son is a tight end for Georgia Tech this year,
Cool.
and he's doing his grad year. He just graduated from UC Berkeley, and so he's doing his graduate year at Georgia Tech. And our daughter is a freshman at Middlebury College in Vermont, and she plays volleyball. And so I see these kids. I remember thinking, I just want to get these kids
Sure.
through the eighth grade, and here they are. And I think that's what hope can do.
Yep.
I think it was like I just kept holding the picture in my mind that I would be here. And I'm not saying that that's just enough. I mean, you got to do all the got to do all the legwork along the way,
Sure.
but I think that's what I want to do. I think that's what I would say is that I'm a speaker of that hope and of that resilience and that trust, and I want to share that with as many people as I can.
Take me back to where you were born and raised. What were the seeds of being a reporter and becoming an advocate and a writer and a speaker? What were all of those seeds that were planted that have been harvested into who you've become today?
Okay, I my parents were they were older when they had me. So
Yep.
my siblings were 20, 16, and 14 when I was born. And I was a big surprise. I was a shock.
Yeah.
My mom said my dad just sort of stared out the window for a couple months, like, wow. But I got to slip into this incredible family. And my mom and dad were from the greatest generation.
Yep.
My dad was a Navy pilot during World War II and the Korean War. My mom was born in New York, raised in San Francisco. My dad was born and raised in San Francisco. So they met when my dad was flying for the Navy, and my mom was a model in San Francisco. Just a beautiful, beautiful, loving woman. And they met and fell in love, and had these three older kids in my life. And then when I came along, I felt like I had five people just sort of shepherding me along. It was really a best case scenario for me. um, I got to experience their college life as a little girl, so it kind of gave me the goal to want to pursue education. My parents always taught us that we were limitless. So whatever we wanted to do, they were supportive and helped give us tools along the way. So I was definitely part of a can-do kind of family with a lot of support. So I played volleyball in college, and I studied speech and communications. And so I knew I wanted to do something um, in the world of communications. And so I had a professor that said every time the camera was on, I sort of upped my game. So he sent me over to the TV and radio program at San Francisco State University and said, and they had a great, great TV program, and said, I think you need to go over there and take some classes and just kind of incorporate this into your world here. And so I did, and that just launched me off into a television reporting career. And I started interning at our local CBS owned and operated KPIX in San Francisco. And I got to work at the lowest level. I mean, I was an intern. I was fetching coffee. I was running scripts. I was
Yep.
sorting mail, and but there was some wisdom in me, even at that age and at that time, that I kept hearing this sort of idea in my mind of make the most of this. It's like it's a moment.
Yep.
It's a moment. And so I really did. And I would go out and kind of branch out and talk to reporters and ask if I could shadow them. And so the news director at the time took notice, and he called me into his office and he said, I really see you working it out there. And he said, what do you want to do? And he helped me. He helped guide me, and he wrote me a letter of recommendation. And then soon after, I was working on the air as a reporter in the Monterey, California market, and loved it immediately. It was just fun. I think I work well under deadline pressure, and I need that to kind of get things rolling and get things done. So it worked with my own personality, and it helped me stay structured and focused throughout the day, because it's a hard deadline. You
Yeah.
can't just not show up
Yeah.
for your 5 o'clock, live shot. So,
Yep.
so it started there, and then blossomed into an anchor, a job And I worked on both coasts. I've worked in on the West Coast, and then was promoted to the Baltimore, Washington market at WBAL, which was the NBC affiliate in Baltimore, and had a totally different experience. I was the morning anchor and
Yeah.
getting up at 2:30 in the morning, and so I think when I look back at that career and I think of my parents and my start in Pacifica, California, which was just south of San Francisco, right on the coast, I think that being given at an early age that there's this limitless attitude about what you can achieve and what
Yeah.
you can do. I don't think I had a lot of doubt in myself. I think I just kind of felt like as long as you're working hard and you're putting your mind to it and you're seeing yourself and I'm not fighting with myself. I
Yeah.
was really just, and it did. My career really soared. And I have to give that. My parents were super honest, loyal people. Integrity was big in our family, and so I felt that as a reporter. I mean, these are the attributes that you need to bring to your work,
Yeah.
because and it requires compassion too. I mean,
Yeah.
you're dealing with a lot of hard stories of people's lives. I mean, life stories, and you have to handle that with a level of integrity. And I took that very seriously, but that was definitely implanted and taught to me
Sure.
and modeled for me.
Yeah. What was one of the favorite stories you ever covered?
Oh boy, wow.
A lot.
Oh yeah, and it's such a wide range.
Yeah.
I'll tell you, it's well, okay. So one that was very exciting, I'll start with that, was I got to work with undercover narcotics agents, and we put on fatigues and we loaded up into a Chinook helicopter, these two, propeller, um, big kind of army helicopter,
Yeah.
and took off into the mountains, and we hovered over a marijuana. This is when marijuana was illegal,
Yep. Yep.
and a huge marijuana garden.
Wow.
And we went out on ropes coming down out of the helicopter and landed, and we had to hike our way with, machetes, and you have to get through to this area. It's so remote. You can't believe how these dope growers can run irrigation lines and out in this remote area. And they must have heard us coming because we got there. There was a campfire going, and there are booby traps, and we had to go under, crawl under lines, and then we hacked down. I think at that time it was the biggest California pot bust. I think it was, maybe $20 million street value. So we loaded it up and got it out of there. And then we had to go back up on the wire, back up into this hovering helicopter. It was so exciting.
Yeah.
It was a time where that relationship, I think, we had a good, my partner, Kevin Tossolini, who was my videographer, he and I had a great relationship with the cops, and they trusted us and they knew that they could trust us. So we were invited to go along on this undercover operation. So that was very exciting. But covering 9/11, I was live on the air and watching the New York feeds as the planes were going into the Twin Towers. And
Wow.
that was, of course, so profoundly frightening, so profoundly changed, obviously life changing for everybody.
Yeah.
And we were in that corridor in Baltimore between New York and DC. And so there was a lot going on in that part of the world. And we had just moved to Baltimore from California. So that was a hard time. I was on the air for, endless hours, covering, talking to terrorism experts. And so those, you know, 9/11 was just so life altering.
Yeah.
And I just remember the gravity of it immediately, especially after the second plane hit, knowing, okay, um, we're under attack. So as a journalist, that was, you go into a mode where it's time now to just focus on each moment that's coming, and to with incredible respect and reverence
Yeah.
to give that information to our viewers.
So let's say you walk into a room of everybody that you've worked with throughout the years that know you as a news person and even as a writer and a speaker, and you can swim through that room of people and go up to a podium, and you get to tell them one fun thing about you, one fun story, one fun anecdote, something that would humanize you in a different way to them. What would you tell that room of curious ears?
Hmm. Um, I don't know. Sometimes, I was just telling someone how, my parents were so sweet, right? But I remember being a teenager and, telling a few fibs a little bit, even though and and telling my parents I can't study for my test because it's too noisy in the house, and my parents just totally trusted me. It was awful. I feel it's still a cringe moment to this day,
Yeah.
taking my VW bug and picking up friends, and we drove 4 hours away to our friend's cabin, and no cell phones, God forbid
Sure.
anything happen, a flat tire or anything.
Uh-huh.
We were in the mountains,
Yeah.
and we played ping pong and we swam, and we drove back the next day, and my parents never knew, and it was awful. The whole setup is what just makes me cringe because
Yep.
I have to study. And I mean, I laugh at myself about that. It's not that that's so funny, but I
Sure.
think there was an adventurous side to me
Yeah.
that kind of, I didn't have the fear, and I felt like, I love to have a good time. So
Yeah.
it was that sort of outweighed the, I wasn't skipping out on school. That was so rare. But
Yeah.
we just had this moment where we seized the day and we went. And I don't know why that just came up. I think I was just telling my kids about that the other day. Now
That's
that
cool.
they're like past that age.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah. But I think that, little bit of that sort of going for it, going for it.
So, piggybacking off of that, let's say you have a dream tonight. You run into the 18-year-old version of you. You can
Mm.
give that young version of you a piece of advice based on this life you've led, the wisdom you've gained. What advice would you impart on that young version of you?
Mm. I would tell her to absolutely never abandon herself.
Yeah.
Never in any way. Stay true, stay alive, do the things that are aligned exactly with your spirit, with your heart. Keep that adventurous spirit up.
Yeah.
Keep that sense of curiosity, because life gets heavy sometimes, and it can kind of snuff out some of those parts of us that are more feisty. And I think that it's important to stay aware of the times in life where we can start to diminish our light.
Yeah.
And that's a I think that's a real sadness.
Well, Charles Bukowski once said, "We're born geniuses and buried idiots." So it's part of that thing, right? And I think I've learned personally over time as I've gotten older, I love cats, and it's because they're always curious and they're always fearless. You just see it. You're watching them, you're like, "Don't do it." And they're going to do it. There's that mechanism in them that doesn't build up walls like humans have, and they
Yeah.
just feel it on that visceral level, and we have to do that. You're totally right, because when you stop doing that, there's a part of you that dies.
Totally. And then I think it's if you have the awareness that this has happened,
Yeah,
then it's the work to try to remember. It's like almost going back and having to uncover and remember, well, where is that? Where is
yeah,
that spark? Who is that person inside? And whether this happens to all of us at some point in different ways, or I definitely had a period where I felt like I was losing some of that light. And I really, to be honest, I think cancer cracked it back open.
Yeah. I remember a jazz singer in Kansas City. Her name was Molly Hammer, and unfortunately, we lost her in 2020. And she went into remission. I remember I brought my stepdaughter to interview her, and one of my big questions at that time was, "What have you done different?" She beat cancer, and she said, "I just don't say no anymore.
Yeah.
Even if I don't feel like I want to do it necessarily, I say yes." And that
Yes.
was huge. I will always remember and revel in that knowledge and that wisdom that she donned, that she's left behind. And I think that's huge for people because there's just been so many people I've known in my life that just don't do anything. They've cut it
Yeah.
out. It's too much. I'm too tired. I'm this.
Yeah.
We'll have plenty of time to sleep when it's all done, right?
Yeah.
You got to
Yeah.
get
It's
living.
Yeah, no, totally. And that's the acuteness of time and the preciousness of life that having a cancer diagnosis presents to you. I'm
Yeah.
not saying everybody gets this, but I hear this a lot from cancer patients, that cancer is the worst thing that happens to you, and it's the best thing that happens to you because it wakes you up to how fleeting life is. So things become acutely important, acutely time driven. And I do feel that way. I feel like I want this time, however much time I have left, to maximize my life. I have things to do. And I do feel like there is some duty there to do that. I feel like I've been given this chance to, and I almost lost my life. I've been given this chance to, and I made a promise that I was going to do everything I could to help others. And I felt that at such a deep level. And I'm already feeling like, am I going to have enough time? Am I going to have enough time? So I feel like I've gotten busy. I'm doing it. I also think, to your point, um, there's something profound that I've learned, and it's about the moments when we're scared. And this kind of transcends, I think, even cancer or maybe any other disease. For all of us, when we're afraid, it's so easy to go into distraction, to run away, to not want to deal with it, not want to face it. And some of these moments were so terrifying that I had to learn to, like I said, get comfortable with that discomfort. And even with fear, if I sat with the fear, I swear in 30 seconds, if I just gave it like 30 seconds, it becomes lighter. It can like
Yeah.
kind of move through you and you're okay.
Yeah.
We're running away from fear so much. And and what was taught to me by a mentor of mine was turn into that fear, right? Face it. You can feel it. It's like, it's bearing down on you. Turn into it and invite it in.
Yeah.
Come on in. Come through me. Come on,
Yeah.
and to turn into it, and it will lose its power.
Yeah.
And it's true. It's just so darn scary to do it at times. And so I think what I've realized, there's that little moment of time where we're terrified and we're afraid to do the next step that gets us through that pain. And so my advice too, this is another one to young people or my young self, invite it in and summon the courage to take that next step.
Yeah.
Because what's on the other side of the door before you open that door is probably some of the most profound connections that you don't even know are waiting for you on
Yeah.
the other side.
For sure. That's true wisdom. So at the end of the day, everyone out there has a perception of you. Family, friends, colleagues, everyone that you speak to, everyone that knows you as a writer, journalist, but you run the show. What's your perception of you? Who do you think you are?
I'm very authentic.
Yeah.
I'm definitely um, I am definitely what you see is what you get, and I am good-hearted. I really, really want good things for other people, and I want good things for myself and my family. I want that at a deep level.
Yeah.
And I know that about myself. And I'm proud of that part of myself.
Yeah. So if anyone out there wants to hire you, they want to reach out, they have questions, any of the good business, find out about the memoir that's coming out, how do they do that?
Go to my website, MarilynGetasByrne.com. And everything's on there. I'm about to give a talk. It's called a Deb X talk. It's like TED, but it's Deb.
Yeah.
And I've been doing some training in Phoenix, Arizona for this. It's going to be on May 16th.
Okay.
And I'm talking about the power of connection and opening the door.
I love
So
it.
this is a focal point for me, and you can buy tickets. I'll have the QR code linked to my website,
Okay.
but you can even check it out, and all the proceeds go to helping women who are being sex trafficked. So it's a good cause, and May 16th. So yeah, so MarilynGetasByrne.com. I'm on TikTok.
Okay.
Marilyn Getas Byrne. I am on Instagram, Marilyn_Getas_Byrne. I'm available and speaking. And as soon as my book is kind of rolling here and is published, that news will be there. So please subscribe and know that I'm here to support.
I will put it in the show notes. Marilyn, this has been wonderful. Thank you so much for opening up. Thank you for your story. Best of luck. Enjoy Kansas City.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. And Joe, you're really terrific. You asked
Thank you.
fabulous questions. I feel privileged. Thank you.
Thank you. Absolutely. Thank you. I appreciate it. All right. Hello, friends. Joe Dimino here. I just wanted to let you know that after 30 years or so, I have finally released my first book of poetry through the mighty Spartan Press here in Kansas City, Missouri. As the creator and host of both Neon Jazz Radio and the Famous Interviews with Joe Dimino podcast, along with being a visual artist, I'm ready to embark on a new adventure and want you to be a part of it. You can get a copy online via Barnes & Noble, Amazon, and actually on the streets in Kansas City at the great Prospero's bookstore off 39th Street. You can also visit joedimino.com for links to the book, to more poetry, and everything in my world, including paintings. Thanks for all of the love and support over the years, and please dig the words.